Hi, everyone. We have a full house here in the studio and folks who are joining us online. Thanks for being here. I'm Shane Prada. I'm the director here at the Baltimore Jewelry Center, and it's wonderful to have everybody here for a residency talk. I'm just going to give a quick introduction. Ooh, I like your eyeshadow eyeliner today. It's different than usual. It's good. Yétúndé Ọlágbajú is a research-based artist, creative producer, and cultural strategist. Their work roots in a single question: what must we reckon with as we build a future together? With no set answers or expectations, Yétúndé unravels intricate connections as a means of highlighting our interdependence. They're interested in how our familial, platonic, romantic, and ecological bonds are transformed by how we confront what we confront in the reckoning. They hold an MFA from Mills College and are the recipient of multiple awards, including a Foundation of Contemporary Arts Award and a Headlands Center for the Arts Fellowship. They recently became an advisor for the San Francisco Arts Commission's Shaping Legacies Artist Circle and participated in Life on Earth, Art and Ecofeminism at the Brick in Los Angeles. They are co-director and creative producer at Level Ground in LA and consult as a cultural organizing strategist. An application to a residency like Yétúndé's from an artist who comes to jewelry making from a different media is always appealing to us. We love what happens when an artist trained and practiced in techniques outside of metals and jewelry wants to learn and make work in our space. It's always so interesting to see the perspective and methodologies that such a maker brings to the studio. When Yétúndé applied for the residency, they shared a deeply moving story about how a piece of jewelry, a brass bangle inherited from their grandmother, connects them to their ancestry and propels them in their art, specifically to their current exploration into jewelry making. Jewelry's capacity for narrative is something that grounds all the work we do here at the BJC, and Yétúndé's story was compelling. Furthermore, they presented a very clear and thorough outline for the residency, detailing how they would spend their time each week and each day here. That really impressed us. Yétúndé, in their own words, brings their sensibilities as a sculptor in the realm of jewelry making and their sensibilities as a sculptor to the realm of jewelry making and adornment. While here they carved stones and experimented with sand casting and had some significant battles with the soldering torch, as we all do at some point. We loved watching their creations unfold, and even more so, we loved getting to know them. They brought such a warmth and generosity to the space and their practice. We're going to miss them very much. A month is not long enough for Yétúndé, and we truly hope they'll return. With no further ado, I'll turn things over to you and hear about what you did and your history and practice.
How am I supposed to follow that? What a lovely, thank you, Shane. That was so sweet. So yeah, thanks for the introduction. I also want to say thank you so much to the staff at the Baltimore Jewelry Center, the interns. I feel like I have learned so much and struggled so much and gotten so much advice, and it's just been really nourishing, and just grateful for everybody's kindness and openness as I ask for help and tips and all that stuff. So thank you to everybody. Yeah, also want to thank all the people who make this practice of mine possible, which would be like my ancestors, friends, my partner. None of this work would be possible without all of their labor and supporting me. So just grateful for that. Also, my dad and my brother are going to walk in soon. So that feels really special. And I'm pretty sure my partner is on Zoom. So hi, honey. Okay, so some things that aren't in my bio. Let me try and exit out of these things. This is fine. Y'all can read it. Some things that aren't in my bio is that I am an arts administrator. I guess that is in my bio now. In the old version was not there. But art administrator and a consultant. I'm Gullah Geechee in Yoruba. I do sculpture, performance, video, textile work. Anywho, hi. Okay, so yes, things that aren't in my bio that I think really influence my work is that I am Gullah Geechee and Yoruba. I work in the arts and support artists in Los Angeles, which I feel like really directionalizes how I think about projects, how I think about relationship building. I also do sculpture, performance, video, textile, and I feel like I also just give myself permission to do what feels right. I think that hasn't always been the case, and I'm really thankful that that has been in the last few years. I'm also dreaming of a multi-generational farm life with my friends. And if you want to talk about it, and you want to talk about compost, I really would like to talk about it with you. And also just trying to navigate towards a world where we have what we need and we have the community that we need around us and the resources. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. Cool. I also wanted to share some of my values as an artist. Oy. I wanted to share some of my values as an artist. I value collaboration and believe that collaboration is a muscle to be developed and formed. I personally believe that being able to collaborate with others across gender, race, class lines is what's going to lead to our collective liberation. So I also value care as foundational, as a foundation that galvanizes and sustains our movement work and connects us to each other and our ancestors. I really value the cycle of unlearning and learning. Any opportunity to unlearn inherited beliefs connected to white supremacy, racism, classism, in my personal opinion, is a blessing. I value improvisation as a form of intuition, a technology that brings us closer to the divine. And lastly, I value my ancestors and by extension, the archive. I think that the archive is our meeting place. It's a place where memories sort of build the table that we can sit at together. It feels very mythical and beautiful to me. One quote that I wanted to share is this quote by Saidiya Hartman, who wrote a piece called Venus in Two Acts and coins a phrase called critical fabulation, which is a writing method that she uses that acknowledges that the archives and our historical archives and records are filled with gaps and omissions. And that a lot of the times being able to use storytelling to reimagine the past allows for people to sort of heal those archives. And so I really do align my practice with that thought. Obviously, I'm not a writer, but I do think that that sort of approach applies, especially in my practice. To that end, I want to talk really briefly about one of my solo shows, which is called On Becoming a Star. In this body of work, I thought about my forced approximation to the mammy stereotype and used it as a space to sort of reckon with the archive that I got given access to. So it started with a book that I got given called Mammy and Her Friends. And I approached it by removing all of the images of Mammy that I could find. And also thought about like the first time I ever encountered this stereotype, which was in the Tom and Jerry show. I don't know if you can watch that. But it felt really important to me, specifically as somebody who's been sort of like, again, forcibly connected to this archetype, to this stereotype, and feeling really charged around like, but I want to be able to show up for people in a caring way. I want to be able to like do that and not have this overwhelming sense of being judged by approaching people in this way. And also thinking about how close like our icons are. I'm thinking about Venus of Willendorf. I'm thinking about all these other icons within history that sort of point to how Mammy was treated as a stereotype within the actual media that we're consuming. So I thought for this show, what if Mammy became a celestial being? What if she was removed from domestic purgatory, right? Able to go outside, able to be only too beholden to herself. And so I imagined what her mythology might be, if she might be able to go on a kind of hero's quest, to be able to find herself, uncover herself, and again, not be reliant upon the home that she's like consistently associated with, right? So I was really excited to be able to work with folks at a residency in San Francisco called the Space Program, where they supported me in developing my first bronze work. So this is my first bronze work. It's a bronze bust and pedestal. It's called a chrysalis #2. And so, yeah, this really started my first practice in casting metals and working with folks as fabricators and really being able to engage also in this historic practice for the Yoruba people of engaging with bronze work, engaging with bust work that has these beautiful lines within the faces, but also is how they recognize their important people within the culture. So I said, Mammy would probably be faceless because she's all of these people, right, who haven't been acknowledged throughout history. And so how can I bring that same sort of texture and approach to the work? So these two pieces. I also, like I said, imagined her going on a journey. And so I made some paintings after telling myself that I wouldn't become a painter again, I was in grad school and I was like, I'm not going to be digestible for the art market. I'm not making anything other than performance and video, which still stands and also like feels like a thing that I was placing upon myself that wasn't necessary. And so I felt a lot of freedom making these paintings. So this one's called With Guidance, I Went to Be Alone. Yeah.
Showed us that compilation of video. And
Yeah.
text. Was that in itself like one piece, and that's how it was presented to viewers? What we were saying, where there was like images and text, and then
Oh yeah, this is a video piece.
okay, and all like if someone was viewing that,
This is the video, yes. And so it combined also a approach of performance as well. And then this obviously is some writing. But yeah. Yeah, and so this piece is With Guidance, I Went to Be Alone, and then began a new form. And the form was a death. So thinking about this triptych as a sort of, I don't know, record of this transformation from sort of domestic purgatory to being able to be on this journey, and then again exploding into this sort of celestial being that can also then be acknowledged in our mythology in a potentially less violent way. I was also thinking about erasure at this time and how it is when we talk about like erasure of people, it's like this invisibilization, this negative thing, and thinking about the tension of being imperceivable as also a form of protection. So I go out, I am perceived, but if I am not perceived, I can also be to myself. I don't have to necessarily be beholden to anyone else. So grappling with that tension. Oh, sorry, I have more pictures, LOL. And so, oh yeah, I included these because I wanted to show you all what I did with the clippings from that book. So Mammy and Her Friend was that book that I originally started working with. And I cut out every single Mammy I could find, and the book eventually became defunct. Like I couldn't open it without tearing pages. It, again, sort of acted as a metaphor to me about unrecognized labor, unrecognized Black femme labor within our state, our police state. And reuse the clippings to be able to, again, cover up Mammy, thinking about whether or not erasure and imperceivability is a potentially liberatory tool. So I did these drawings. Mammy's often associated with food. So this one's called Fruits of Our Labor, Eaten Good, thinking about folks whose unrecognized labor, like how well off we would be if we got acknowledged for that labor. Some of these works, I'm also just like, how does it actually sit in my body these days? Because this was 2021. So I'm still grappling with the conversation of whether or not this was incredibly like expansive for me, or if it was violent for others. Still thinking about that, but yeah. This one's called Goodbye, Goodbye. It was too heavy. Thinking about how Mammy's labor, unrecognized labor, is so associated with the state and how the state upholds subjugation of others, right? So there's a concept by an incredible scholar named Joy James, who talks about the captive maternal, which is that the state is only able to operate and divide us and abuse our labor because of unrecognized labor of often femmes within the world. So thinking about that connection to state, it's this unending flag. Another piece I'll just skip. So yeah, after that solo show, I was sort of reflecting on this process of engaging with the archive, this sort of neurotic approach to like wanting to collect objects and images and scan and digest. And back in 2017, I had a different solo show and had been in the process of helping my grandma move to California with my mom. And my grandma had a whole bunch of photos in trash bags. And so at that point, I was like, yeah, so here are some of them. Yeah. And so I had kind of gone through this process of scanning all of these images, trying to sort of organize the family tree. and, scanned and digitized like hundreds of photos because I ultimately don't want to forget. I want to remember, and I want to fill these omissions and gaps in our family archive. I also want to tell an honest story about being Black and of African descent and in the diaspora, and having that identity in the belly of the beast, which is this country. So I was curious, how might I be connected to my ancestors and family? How can we find common ground sort of on the horizon of our hopes and dreams for ourselves and the world and each other? And so in response, I developed this show called Horizon, You Hold My Shape, which was a large-scale installation show at Somart's Cultural Center in San Francisco. It's a 36,000 square foot gallery. So it was a lot. I was very stressed out, and I was also getting married at the time. So, just unwell behavior. But it was great. It was great. It was a really powerful time. And so I developed this whole entire show in 2022, which was a reimagination of the Golden Chain story, which is a Yoruba creation story, where one of the Orishas drops down from the heavens down a golden chain and sort of sets in Ife, which is the cultural, spiritual center of Yoruba, of the Yoruba people. And so with this myth, I started making large scale sculpture. I made 3 video works, and sort of imagined this being a place where all of the gaps within my familial history can sort of rest and also be connected on the horizon, thinking about the horizon as this metaphor for we may not understand each other, we may not be incredibly close, but we will be able to sort of connect with each other based off of our hopes that we sort of envision on the horizon to come. And so, yeah, did a lot of rolling of steel. These hoops were 12 feet inside and then 25 feet around. So, big stuff, big and heavy. And then I also did a series of prints on travertine stone, which are the stones that are kind of around geothermic pools, thinking again about like this creation myth kind of like texture and vernacular. And all of these images of the horizon were printed and sourced from these archives that I got from my grandma. So some of these images date back to, I think I wrote down like 1960, 1970. Some of them are obviously mine as well, but thinking about how these sort of scattered, broken pieces of these stones and the connection that we have through the archive can kind of, again, create this jointed horizon. The other thing I did with this show that felt really exciting is that I collaborated with 9 other dark-skinned Black femme folks, including my mom, to create a improvisational performance. And so performance ends up showing up a lot in my practice. And that was really lovely. This is my mom opening up the show. And yeah, it was a really incredible experience and challenging. It was challenging to hold the balance of wanting something to be sort of like directionalized as a performance and also wanting to give everybody space to play, which felt really connected to the work, especially as we think about inner child and being able to receive and engage in play as adults. Yeah. And so after that, I took a break between solo shows. I moved to Tongva Tataviam land, also Los Angeles. And then I went on residency at this space called Acre, which is in Wisconsin. And for the longest time there, I'd been dreaming about, and even before the residency, I'd been really wanting to do this earthwork where I dig a spiral into the earth and then build a fire for people and everybody comes around, talks around the fire. I hadn't really decided what I wanted the purpose of that conversation to be, but I knew I really wanted to do it. And so I had the opportunity to be able to see to it at Acre. This is a little clip. Shout out to Lois for doing the recording. Um, and so while I was there, like we did this whole entire piece. It took me like 6 hours to dig this trench. build up the fire, sustain the fire. And then we had the event, we talked about conversations around what do we inherit, conversations about family, process, revolution. Um, and then somehow like drama happened. Like, I don't know what happened, but there was some conflict within all of us. And it turned into this sort of big thing at the residency. And so for me, I turned inward and I was like, oh my gosh, like regardless of my intentions, conflict is bound to happen. And I think it was a really important lesson for me, not only as an artist, but also as somebody who like wants to collaborate with people and who's also like, I don't know, like overthinking, anxious minded, where I'm just like, cool, I don't know what conflict might arise, but I want to be able to address it when it comes and not get so overwhelmed. And so later on after this residency, like I said, I took a couple years after the last solo show. And so after I had processed all this stuff with this residency, I was able to get a residency at 500 Cap Street, which is in San Francisco. It is a house bought by David Ireland, who's an artist who was really popular, I guess, in the 70s. I don't know much about this man. I'm so sorry. Shout out to anybody at 500 Cap who's watching. My bad. But he was very, very influential in San Francisco Arts Institute, which is an older school. And he bought this house on 500 Cap Street, which is right in the Mission District. I don't know if anybody knows about it, but it's a highly gentrified area. It really kind of felt the brunt of the tech boom, the multiple tech booms that was happening in San Francisco. And so the location of the house is like a pretty conflicted location. And, it has a history as an accordion shop, as an SRO for migrant workers. And eventually, like I said, it became the home and the art project of David Ireland. And so when I got invited, the first thing I noticed, because I would stay there overnight, is that when you were staying in the house, sonically, you can hear everything that's on the street. And that's because David Ireland removed all of the insulation from the walls. So it's I mean, it's a cold, loud house. But I do think there's something interesting about that where I can't avoid anything when I'm in that house. And I can't, and folks on the street can't avoid anything that's happening in the house. And so I thought about the sort of sonic porousness of the home as a way to contextualize conflict, right? And how I hope that we might be able to rise to the occasion as conflict arises, right? Like to not avoid it, to be present with it, to know that it is around and be prepared for it, whatever comes. So with that initial conflict in mind, I wondered if this home and this process and whatever I make for the solo show could be a metaphor for the times that we live in today. Conflict is unavoidable. How can we not turn away? How can we spend time with it? And ultimately, how can we grow from it? So inspired by the Ghanaian Adinkra idea of Sankofa, which means to go back and get it, I was inspired to sort of think about an audio installation and think about leaning into that idea that I can't avoid any of the sounds in the house, and the sounds can't, the street can't avoid any sounds that happen in the house, right? So I also was driving back and forth from Los Angeles to the Bay Area and listening to Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. And he brought up this idea of the circle being a permissive and also protective space, and thinking about dances of formerly enslaved folks. And I thought about, could the spiral then also provide us something similar to the circle? And I posited that the spiral does the same thing as the circle. It's a permissive space, but also allows us to progress while holding on to the wisdom we've gained along the way. And so I think about Sankofa as a sort of embodiment of this spiral. So again, I decided to fold into the conflict, and I worked with a whole bunch of people who were at Acre, where I did the trench spiral fire. And we worked together for 11 months, and we developed audio pieces together. The way that the show goes is that there are about 10, 11 rooms in the house, and each artist was given a room, and it would play on this cycling timeline where at any point in time inside of the house, there would be a sound, and it would almost be a way of you having to discover where it's coming from, what it's saying. And it was really fun. I got everybody some Ableton classes, so we learned how to make music. We learned how to do field recordings. It was really cool. And everybody was paid. I just want to say that, because that's very important. And so I also asked them to respond to these questions. What do we inherit? What must we destroy? What fills and nourishes us? And then what fuels us to act? And I asked them to make audio based off of these 4 questions, any one of them. And so, yeah, I wanted to show some images from this. Obviously, they're just images and not audio, but I have a little QR code if you want to listen to them. And I also casted a bronze sort of miniature version of the spiral fire, which was a bronze casted through the lost wax casting process on a cement block with like a little beautiful incense holder, which I've thought of as a calabash, which is really important. But yeah, we had an opening ceremony. I had a closing ceremony with others. And I also did some textile work. This is a turmeric dyed, oh my God, what is that word? Curtains. It was really lovely to do that. And you can see like this house there's something very strange about this house. It's both a archive of David's work and also obviously artists get brought in. So you're kind of having to grapple with the archive that he's left as an artist. While also making new work yourself. Also, I wanted to share that I made a zine for the show. It has works included or it has conversation starters, questions for the audience that was developed by all of the artists that I collaborated with. And it was a really nice companion for the audio because it also gave like maps on where to go and stuff like that. Yeah. There's that. Wait, there we go. And so here, if you want to listen to the works, all of them are less than, most of them are less than 30 minutes. But again, I gave everybody 30 minutes to kind of explore. So there's a lot of really great pieces. And again, these were all commissioned for the work. So they're new pieces everybody made. So yeah, that's the last few shows that I've had. And I'm about to move into my jewelry practice, which feels so fun. How am I on time? Gosh, what a blessing. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to share some of my jewelry work. I have a little jewelry project. I would not identify as a jeweler, although that might change because I've had such a nice experience here. But it's been really nice to bring some of the elements of my practice into the jewelry studio here. Before I started the process or the practice of irawo, inspired by my paternal great-grandmother. Shout out to my dad and my brother who are here, who I'm named after and who also made beads, a bead maker in Ife. And she was really well known and well loved for this practice. And so I was really inspired by, this is my matriarch. So this is my aunt. Is this right? Yeah. So this is my aunt. This is my grandmother, paternal grandmother. Maternal grandmother is over there, and my mom is up here. Hi. And so for me, I was really inspired by my family's will to adorn our really unique style. And so I also got really inspired because my mom gave me this bracelet, this bangle from my granny, Yapun. And my mom told me that I was supposed to receive this when I had become a woman. So I don't know what that means, but I had gotten it when I was 22. And it was really special to me, especially as somebody, again, who's grappling with the omissions and gaps within the archive, my own familial archive as well. It felt really nice to know that somebody was thinking of me, considering my trajectory in life. And it's, powerful to be connected to ancestors through making and also through object. I think that that's really special for everyone. So I started this practice of dealing with beads. it felt like really joyful, and came from a place of I just wanted to be able to celebrate and honor my grandmother, great grandmother, but also develop wearables for myself that was more connected to my gender. And so, yeah, I embarked on this practice and process. It felt really lovely. Felt a little bit like spell work. Everything is divisible by 3, which is maybe just neuroses, but that's fine. But yeah, it felt really exciting to be able to do this. And especially when, I was seeking like a way to like adorn myself that felt really aligned with how I felt in my gender. All of these are glass beads, pearls. It felt really nice to be able to make things as like extravagant. So this is like a necklace piece that also goes underneath the chest and around the back. I also did some small castings of bronze for pendants. And then I also wanted to share what I've been working on here, which is really wanting to explore materials, thinking about adire, which is indigo dyeing, and batik, so resist dyeing, and thinking about these patterns that exist within the stuff that I've seen and been given, and trying to mimic some of that in some stone carvings. I've been reading Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. Go pick that up. I also sadly got COVID while I was here, so I lost a week, but I did some felting. So this is my felted dragon that I wanted to show you all. And exploring Baltimore and taking walks. I was able to cast in some bronze, do some shout out to Elliot. And also was able to make like pretty heavy works. I ended up making this a double ring, which you can see in the inside here, center. And then I also casted these little pendants. And yeah, that's kind of what I've gotten into for the last 3 weeks. It's been really special to be able to do sand casting again, especially. But yeah, I think that's it. And I'm open to any questions. Yay. Yeah. And I can go back to anything too, as well. Yeah.
So sound is so integral to so much of your work.
Yeah.
I immediately wonder if any of the sounds from the metalsmithing studio have been feeling any sort of way or inspiring.
Yeah, totally. This last video, I turned it off because it's so loud, but the actual whir of the torch feels so special. And it's specifically when it's actually heating up, y'all tell me, the flux, the crucible, thank you. When it's heating up the crucible, it's so special because it's like this rhythmic sort of. So I don't know if I necessarily will make an audio piece out of it, but I definitely took a lot of videos of it because it was so mesmerizing and sounded so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I feel like I went really fast. I'm so sorry, but yeah. Mm. I'm just wanting to check. Oh, thanks everybody. I would like to rest. If I'm being honest, I feel like all of us are artists in here and have like multiple jobs or gigs. And so I think one thing that I really appreciated about this residency is that I was able to play and experiment quite a bit, even though I came in with like some really clear intentions. I feel like the studio also is just like, no, babe, that's not gonna work. You're gonna have to rethink your process, which I felt was really humbling. I think other than resting, for me, I feel like I want to get better at or being able to like set up my own home studio to be able to do some sand casting. I think that's always been the challenge with any of this, like working in metals, jewelry work, is that I don't have access to the actual studio. And so being able to find people who either would be willing to welcome me or figuring out how to do that in my carpeted Glendale studio, which is not possible. But, you know, being able to figure that out would be really helpful. So I think that's probably the next step, is finding a studio. That's me. Yeah.
Where your mom.
Yeah. Yeah, with my mom.
Like, you said it like.
Yeah.
Like, a balance between like.
Improving, yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of challenging, honestly. Like working with family in your art practice I'm sure people can relate, but it's like, it can be really intense, really exciting. And ultimately it's about like how you nourish and tend to your relationships with any of those collaborations. So for me, what tends to really work is I kind of posit an idea, I provide an idea or a question, and then people respond, and then we continue to meet. So over the course of those months that I worked with my mom and these other folks, I think we met like maybe 10 times, and sometimes really casually and sometimes really directionalized to finishing work. But we kind of developed a like scaffolding or skeleton of what we wanted to do. We developed some specific actions around inner child and play. And then I asked my mom to sing a song that she would sing to me as a child, or like that she would want me to hear as a child. And so that's what she shared at the beginning of the piece. So it's very much like, and this feels like the same for any of my collaborations, of like providing kind of a loose scaffolding for people to arrive, and then allowing people the space to experiment within that, which can be so like challenging, but also feels really rewarding because it feels like it actually helps people grow in their practice. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I don't know what everybody's saying. Oh my goodness. I'm feeling like a Luddite. I'm actually very tech savvy, but okay, wait. Okay, thank you, Margot. I was really impressed with the gem carving you did in your residency. What does stone as a material mean for your practice? Also, okay, I'm gonna answer that question first because it's a great question, Margot. I love stones because to me, they really represent slow time, like imperceivable time that I cannot experience or feel in my body, but that is inherent within this object that I'm able to hold close to my body. I think that's also really exciting for me as somebody who's into adornment, of being able to hold those things close to me. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just like obsessed with rocks. I'm the girly who's like on the beach, like with a pocket full of rocks, and they're all like dull and not shiny when you get home. But I'm just like, oh, I want all of these. So I don't know what it is. I feel like maybe in another life I was like a geologist or something. But yeah, really obsessed with slow time, with rocks. Also, this is another question, but what ideas carried over or didn't carry over from large installation to jewelry? Margot, again, is going to be that rock. Dealing with these travertine stone slabs, I think was like the beginning, like my gateway rock. I don't know, that feels wrong to say, but like it was the beginning. And these are also, I think they're basalt rocks. I'm forgetting what they are, but they were beautiful. The light is making them yellow, but they were beautiful, dark, sort of porous, almost volcanic style kind of rocks that were laid in there for the spiral in the inside. It was really beautiful. Obviously, themes of spiral, themes of working in the archive. I think like working in metals, obviously. And yeah, taking up space, I think also is the thing that carried over from the larger installation to how I'm working now. Just feeling a lot more comfortable taking up space, literally within installation spaces, but also within like rooms and yeah. Yeah.
It's really compelling how in your installations and your performances, you're creating space to play, and then also in your and reflection, but also like in your jewelry, there's also like play and reflection. So
Mhm.
I see those being very strong.
Yeah.
Like opportunities for the body and making statements.
Yeah.
It's very strong between those two worlds.
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that. One of the values that I put on and then I took off because I was like, I can't really articulate this very well, but was a level of freedom. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I gravitate towards making and artistry because it feels like in the studio I can make my choices. Like in the studio I can be free to do what I want and again make those choices that I need to and really base it off of intuition and also improvisation, also play. So yeah, that's a really cool astute offering. Thank you. Anyone, either one of you?
I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about how your like, strong focus on collaboration
Mm.
studio practice,
Mm-hmm.
has informed your work in jewelry and metals, where I feel like a lot of processes are very like object or how it comes.
Yeah, yeah. I still am figuring that out. I think that with the beading and especially like kind of doing that magical work of being concerned about how many beads are on one string and all that stuff, that feels very much like magic to me and feels like being in conversation and collaboration with ancestry and ancestor, which feels like a different kind of collaboration that's a little bit looser and less tangible. But I find that like for me here, any of the work that I've completed or been able to actually put on my body has been so deeply collaborative because I've been like, what do you think? Like, am I doing this right? Like this kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to think about that more. I don't know, like an exquisite corpse with like a pendant or something sounds so like um high stakes, high reward, I guess is kind of in my brain. But yeah, that's a really good question about bringing collaboration into it. Yeah. What are you gonna say? What?
Thank you for the presentation.
Of course. It's nice to see you.
If you could describe what the video piece is about, like what was going on in that video, if it is a video piece?
It's a video piece, yeah. So I had 3 videos in this installation. One was me actually moving through images of me, my mom, and my dad. Hi, Dad. Um, and sort of doing like a slideshow, like listening for that like the 35mm projector slide, the older style, not very old for me, but moving through images of me and my family and trying to be like, who do I look most like? Or like, do we hold our hand the same way? That kind of thing. And so that was one video. The other 2 videos are of really important horizon lines for me, mostly in Northern California, both of them. And so there was writing, I forget exactly what I said, but did this meditation on like this desire to meet at the horizon with all of my ancestors and family and stuff. So yeah. Yes, hi.
I'm curious geographically, so I followed you on Instagram for a long time.
LOL, thank you. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's right.
You started something, you
Uh-huh.
picked up some rocks, you're gonna take some rocks home.
Uh-huh.
What was the spiral before? Did you have any connection to Baltimore? And then now that you feel like this is a portal that you've kicked open, what does it feel like it'll kind of mean to you in the future?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel kind of sad that I lost like a week in Baltimore to Miss Rona, but um I don't know. I just feel lucky to be able to be like traveling in relationship to any sort of creative practice. It feels like a real privilege to be able to be brought into spaces like this, especially as somebody who doesn't have as much knowledge. So I guess, you know, the spiral is continuing to cycle through. I would love to come back. I would love to visit. I would love to build a relationship to this, not only to this space, but to like, I believe that the earth has its own energy and entities, and like to build relationship with a particular space and land feels like a long-term relationship to build upon. So I do hope that I can continue to tend to that in a way that feels like it's full of integrity and authenticity. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question? I feel like I could keep rambling. Oh, I would come back for Baltimore Jewelry Center. I would certainly do that. And you know, my family lives close by, and so being able to continue to build that relationship, and tend to it feels like it's uh, it's an assured thing. It's given, you know. So, yeah. Yes.
When this slide came up,
Uh,
I was really curious originally,
yeah.
about how you chose the objects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Trees,
Okay.
accessories.
Yeah.
But I also saw shells and.
Yeah.
other items. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure in the mythologies of the Orisha is holding a shell, so there's that. And also thinking about these bottles full of seawater. So thinking about, again, like sending out a message to the horizon in hopes that it gets received. It was that, and so yeah, maybe a little heavy-handed on, on that, but yeah, it was really intention to be able to connect more closely to the mythology, the myth story, as well as this like sort of metaphor at being out at sea and seeking something on the horizon. Ooh, hold on, let's see. Did I miss anything? Okay, there are some pieces in this show that look like they are backlit. Can you talk? Yeah, Elliot, of course. Okay, so I think Elliot's talking about these pieces, which are travertine stone. They are images from, again, all of those photos I scanned from my grandmother. And they are printed on top of these stones. And then they are scanned, and then the vinyl is put on the wall. Because originally I really wanted to have a huge, like, you know, 2,000-pound slab of travertine in the studio or in the gallery, and that's just delusional, which is fine. I'm happy to exist in that space. And so then I was like, what is a good trade-off? So I wanted them to be really big. These are like 7 feet tall. It's a hand. So I scanned my hand on a flatbed. Scanned my hand on a flatbed scanner and then had them printed off in vinyl. Oh, wait, hold on, let me do this. Oh my goodness, made it worse.
That on jewelry scale, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, would be so nice. And it's really easy. I mean, if anybody wants to know, it's not a glamorous process. It's literally like getting somebody to print on really terrible printer paper, inkjet, very normal, low cost. And then you take a photo transfer solution, put it onto the clean travertine, and then wait. And then you take a sponge and you rub off the paper from the back. Yeah, it was really fun, and I don't know, felt magical because I was like, I have no idea what's going to be put on the piece. Yeah. Wow, thank you, friend. I'm gonna go back to him just to bask in that compliment. Yeah, I'm hoping that is something I'm hoping to do. I don't know which one of you asked that question, but I got a bigger studio right before I came out here. I'm really excited to paint again, and to engage in that more intentionally, consistently. Thank you. I'm taking that. Cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
So much information.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for putting so much work into your presentation. It's really wonderful.
Oh my God.
To get to see.
My pleasure.
And just so everyone knows, we do residency, our application is just once yearly, and our deadline is this Saturday. So if you're considering, please apply. You have until midnight on Saturday. And it's for metals and jewelry artists and other artists, or
Mhm.
people who are just curious.
Mhm.
Apply, why not? Yeah, thanks. And if you haven't heard, I'm sure you have, we have a fundraiser next week. You should participate in some way. Come party with us. Awesome. Thanks everyone for coming.
Bye-bye. Oh, bye, honey. Love you.
And thank you all for being.
Bye, everybody.